This is entry 23 of Expedition Handheld. I'm Russ Crandall.
I'm Adam Patrick Murray, and this is your little kitten. Hello. And we will be your guides on this journey of handheld discovery, won't we?
Wow, I don't have anything to say after that. I think we should just cue the music.
This is Zipper. This is another foster that we have in to hopefully be a bonded pair with Iggy, the orange one that we showed off. But he is wiggly.
Active.
Also,
Yeah.
This guy talks. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Like, he is constantly chatting, and just like what? Can you say that again? I didn't catch that. And he'll just say it over and over and over and over again.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
It's okay, buddy. I know life is hard. You're so tiny.
Just likes to make announcements. I'm here.
Yeah, it is fun because I mean, like he was essentially surrendered to the shelter that we do our fostering with, so we have no idea where he came from, whatever. But I mean, he was alone. Probably grew up on the streets. He has a crooked tail, like a broken tail. I don't know if you can kind of see it.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but. Yeah, so you try to handle him and get him comfortable with human touch and stuff. So it is fun to have him on my lap and then like have my arms around him while I'm playing a handheld. It's
Nice.
like a nice little bonding time of like, hey, you're just chilling with me. It's okay, you're safe. But also I'm playing some handhelds, so
Right.
it's work.
It's like a 2-for-1. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is 2 for 1, right? Yeah. All right, the cat is back in a safe space. And speaking of handheld gaming on the couch, I got some new products in, which we'll talk about later in what's in your pocket. But
Sure.
I realized that I have a grip of micro SD cards. And I was like, oh no, I have so many micro SD cards and they do so many different things, and I'm having to like manage oh, you know what? I really only need like 8 gigs for this one, but this one over here I should probably have like 256. Like, how many micro SD cards do you have laying around, Russ?
Well, not counting those that are in the devices. I try to keep them in the devices, or I will put them on internal storage if I can, like the games and stuff. But not counting those, it's hundreds. I saw the notes, so I was like, oh, he's going to ask about this. So I brought I call this my tackle box, but it's really like a bead box, right? But I have like collections, and each of these means something else, So like this one right here is like full on, like there's probably 100 in there, and those are all like really cheap, no brand. Like, I can't rely on those, kind of cards. I'll use them sometimes for storage, but I can't flash to them. That's kind of the way I approach them. And then I've got like my really high ticket ones that are like 512 gigs that used to cost me like $50. Now they're worth like 100. And then I've got just smaller cards too. And then, like all of the, so I have like actual regular SDs, and then all of the like little holders, like the, those adapters that they make.
Oh, yeah.
I got so many of those. And so often what I'll do is I'll write on the adapter what it is. Like, specifically, this is Rocknix for this device, and I'll put it on the adapter and then put the card inside that. So I like kind of know which one it is. Otherwise, I have no idea, But that's only the opened ones that I've like gotten from devices or have used over the years. I also have my basket of micro SD cards.
Okay, hold on. I thought I had a lot of micro SD cards. Yeah, this is nowhere near.
Yeah, so this guy, I bought this basket, I think in Japan or maybe Europe or something. Like, I was just like, I really like this basket. And so what am I going to put in it? Well, all these micro SD cards. And so I buy bulk. So when I buy, I don't go on Amazon for the most part. I go to another website, really great one, called OEMPCWorld.com. And they are like
PC
a
World,
distributor.
not associated with PCWorld.
No, it's not. No, it was confusing in the beginning, like when I first heard about these guys. But anyway, yeah. So they're not the same as PC World, but they are like a distributor of SD cards, mostly industrial style. Like, so they're like for people who are buying and then reselling, or else using them in industrial products, like video cameras, things like that.
Got it.
And one of their sales guys contact him, and we're talking very early days, back when I was just flashing for Linux firmwares for like the RG 350. He contacted me. I was like, hey, big fan of what you've been doing so far. here is our like retailer discount code, like associate, like they made me an account and they're like, here you go, 5% off. And it's 5%, you know, but that matters when you're buying like 50, 16 gigabyte cards and stuff, that can help, you know? And so often with that discount, it's usually a little bit better than Amazon pricing. And so, and the thing about them too, and why I really like them, and I often will promote them in my videos too, is that they test everything. Like they full on, like they're not just like, oh yeah, we've got this 64 gigabyte. They're like this specific version, and they'll do all their testing with it, and they know all the differences between, you know, the SanDisk, same storage size, but there's like 5 different types of them. They know those, and they'll tell you what they are and stuff. So that's what I really like about them, is they're like in the weeds. And so I have trust for that when I buy a product from them, as opposed to Amazon, which sometimes can be flaky, you know. I really like that. So that's why I have like all these in bulk, is like, this is when I need to flash like a new OS and I want to make sure I got a fresh card, or I'm going to use it in a tutorial. I want to show the packaging and stuff. That's typically what I do. So
yeah,
too many micro SD cards.
Yeah, well, and then if you have all your handhelds with them in it as well, I mean, you're talking about like
hundreds. 500. Yeah, probably 500 SD cards at this house. Yeah.
A side note, I forgot to put this in the what's in your pocket, but I have been messing around again with the Miu Mini because you know, like after talking to Mr. Dweeb, I got it out of storage, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I am missing out on having a nice little. You know, what does he call it? Emotional support Game Boy or whatever,
right?
Or his mom calls him that.
Yeah.
And so I messaged him and I was like, hey, you know what? Based off your recommendation, I polished it off and got it out of storage. And what should I do with it? And he's like, oh, put Onion OS on it. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I want the Tech Dweeb theme on my handheld. And so during the process of flashing Onion OS, or no, it was when I was using the installer on Windows. It was like, hey, we see you're trying to put Onion OS on the stock SD card, but it's been known to be flaky. Are you sure you don't want to try a different SD card? And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of cool that it like knew, you know, like that it was the stock SD card and gave you a recommendation to say, yeah, you should probably upgrade to a better SD card. So, yeah, I ended up upgrading to a better SD card that I had around. But
you know, so fun trivia. So Jim, who's the guy who makes the music for my channel, and he's been providing music for us for like these intros and stuff.
Yes.
He was on the original Onion OS developers. So he's the one that came up with a name, and he started a lot of it. He gave it off to like some actual like full on developers, and they really polished it to what it is today. But the very first beginnings of it was actually him. That's how I got to know him. Basically was through DMs on Discord back when when he first came out. And it was like, hey, and we were like working on things together. I would tell him about some features I'd love to see, and then he would try to implement them and stuff. So yeah, It's all gone full circle at this point.
Yeah. Fun times. Well, you know what's not fun times is one of your favorite handhelds, I guess, for the past couple years is not going to get a version 2, at least according to Sean Hollister over at The Verge. He sat down with the Logitech's new gaming boss, Robin. Oh, I'm gonna butcher that name, so I'm just gonna say Robin. Sat down with him and asked him a bunch of questions, but in this story as well, got out of it this headline that I'm gonna read verbatim. Logitech's handheld plans are on ice. Don't expect a G Cloud 2 soon. So Russ, sounds like you're kind of bummed by this.
Yeah, you know, I really loved, I grabbed this one too because I saw it in the notes. I really loved the G Cloud. It's still one of the most ergonomic handhelds that I have. You know, like the way this grip is, it's very teardrop shaped. You can see it's actually not a very thick grip. It's only like, you know, a little bit out, but it's just so wide and nice. And so it's still one of the most comfortable handhelds, like of the larger size to hold. And I think that really matters when you're doing game streaming and stuff. The sticks aren't great, triggers aren't great, face buttons are okay, and the D-pad is terrible. So I always wanted a revision. Like I wanted a better hardware, like kind of just better components, basically. And so it is a bummer that that they're not going to update this one. I mean, I made a full-on, like I did a review of it, and I used it in a lot of videos. I even did like a follow-up and stuff. The price was always bad. I think it retailed at like $350 when it first came out, which was around the time the Steam Deck came out. So it's like, why buy that? You know, but it really did come to its own. It went, like, there were a lot of fire sales a couple of years ago where it was down to like $150, $199. And at that point, it was actually competitive. And so Yeah, I was really hoping for another one, but sounds like, at least according to Sean's article, that they're not seeing a lot of use at Logitech in terms of people buying it and then actually using it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised that this guy working at Logitech was just so open and frank about being like,
Yeah.
hey, we're not selling games, like we're selling the hardware. It's razor thin, like we also don't want to be get into the business of hosting cloud gaming and stuff like that. Like all that brings its own can of worms kind of stuff. And essentially didn't say it was out of the realm of possibility, but also it's weird because like right now the prices are so bad for local running stuff that if you could get something out there that uses very little RAM because it is just streaming from the cloud, it might be an option for people. But also on the other end, there's plenty of people who are actually pretty like cautious about this whole thing because, hey, if the low end of the market, the people who don't have a ton of money to get new consoles and stuff like that, then they're all going to start moving into cloud services, and they're not going to own anything. They're not going to own reliable hardware. They're not going to own the games that they're running on, and so like it's a legit worry. So I don't think this would have been like this is a great solution for that low end, but I mean at least it's an option.
Yeah, and I think really, even for those who have their own stuff, as opposed to buying a dedicated handheld specifically for gaming locally, but having a gaming PC and then streaming it locally in your house, and that's like one of the bigger benefits there. So you're still kind of owning your games, and that you've got it on your own PC as opposed to like GeForce Now or whatever. But that's the other thing too, is it's kind of surprising that like Nvidia doesn't come out with one of their own, like it's something that would just basically dial right into Nvidia GeForce Now, and then because they're I'm assuming making a lot of money off that service, and so I don't want that to actually happen. I don't want to live in a world where we don't own anything, but I don't know. Kind of interesting that they don't do that.
They still actively sell the Shield TV box.
That's true.
So GeForce Now taps into that. I don't know. I've definitely pushed them before too. Did you ever have that Shield TV tablet, the Android tablet?
No, the one that like the flip one with the controller.
Well, there was that, and then they had like a full 7-inch kind of Android tablet.
Oh yeah,
both
of those were before my time.
I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I have one. Or actually, there was 2 generations because one of them got recalled because of a battery thing, I think. But yeah, and at the time that was like one of the best Android tablets you could get, like that.
Wow.
So it was a cool product. I don't know. I think Nvidia is probably making plenty of money right now, not worrying about us handheld.
Yeah, they're not
gamers.
sitting around being like, "How can we make some money?"
And I bet if they asked him if it was like, "Hey Jensen, why don't you make a handheld?" He would probably be like, "Yeah, we do. It's called the Nintendo Switch. We're in every single one of those." So
that's true.
Anyway, that's pretty much it for news, Russ. Luckily, we kind of hit a quiet week.
Yeah.
in terms of news, thank goodness. Which means
I think we have. I was gonna say we have our own news to make just because we have so many things we've been messing around with. So
yeah, and actually, before we get to an ad break, I gotta say a little piece of news here. I've been talking about over at the Full Nerd. I want to talk about over here just to make sure people are aware. But August 8th. If you live in the Bay Area or can get to the Bay Area, there is a thing down in the South Bay called the Bay Area Electronics Flea Market. It happens every month during the nice months, I guess is the best way to say it. And man, it is such a cool little flea market for just nerds. Like people literally just buy little parking spots because it's in like a parking lot at a community college, and the vendors buy spots and they just like set up tables or roll out tarps and they just throw stuff out and just be like, hey, what do come buy this stuff. And some people are super organized. It's like actually resellers and people do this for a living. And then some people who are like, oh yeah, I worked at IBM back in the day, and I just happened to find a bunch of servers in my garage, so I'm just gonna put some stuff out, and make an offer. And so it's fun. I've been to a handful of these, but recently I had this idea to put together a charity drive for the late great Gordon Maung, friend and mentor, to give to a local charity called the Tech Exchange, which works with people who don't have the means to get computers and access to the internet and stuff like that. So they either get physical donations or monetary donations, and it's a nonprofit. The family actually of Gordon is the one who picked out this nonprofit to work with and raise money for. And yeah, so we essentially have been going through all of our gear at the office and being like, hey, you know what? I hate the idea of this stuff just sitting there not being used. So why don't we sell it for charity? And we did one last month, and in my mind, I mean, there was a lot of work that went into it, but it was also kind of the trial run. Because this one coming up on the 8th, we're gonna have like more than double the stuff. Like we're renting a U-Haul van because we got so much stuff to just load in there, and like fire sale. Like we're selling like stuff at like 20% of the MSRP, just because it's like, hey, it's it's brand new hardware. We used it for testing or something like that, and then essentially just put it in a box. So if you're local, come down. And last time I didn't have any handhelds, which is why I didn't really bring it up on this show. But this time I will have some handhelds to sell. And yeah, if you're in the market and you're local, come say hi. It'll be fun.
Man, so, I want to fly out there now and be there.
yeah,
so
come
fun,
meet Russ from Retro Game Core. But
I'm not gonna actually go, but
no. I mean, like it. The one that we had was fun. This upcoming one I know is going to be a good time, but at the end of the day, being able to raise money for charity, especially in Gordon's name, just like feels it feels good, like
it's really fitting.
Yeah. And the last one we were able to raise over $4,500 just by selling a bunch of the old hardware that we have there. And I know that we're going to easily blow past $10,000. Like that was my goal. And yeah, we've got so much stuff at this next one. I mean, it's mostly like computer hardware, motherboards, AIOs. We got a lot of cases. If you want a really nice case for $5, come on down.
Wow.
But we're gonna have some GPUs. I actually was at the AMD AI event last week and talking to the PR lady, and I had mentioned this because I was like, hey, we have some old CPUs sitting around. Can I get approval to sell those for charity as a part of this? And they're like, hey, we might have some other stuff to send you. So it sounds like we got a couple GPUs coming out our way as well to sell. So yeah, handhelds, PC stuff, random stuff. Oh, Steve Lynn, friend of the show, he was there last month. I should have taken a photo of it. He had an old handheld. It was like a football game from, I think it was Tiger Electronics maybe.
Okay.
Where it was like 2 player on one handheld.
Oh, really?
So essentially, it's like it's like a handheld that has like 2 little offshoots and like both have buttons. So essentially, like you would stand there next to somebody and like play next to them. And I was like, I kind of want to have that, but no, we're selling stuff for charity. I should have taken a photo at least. But
yeah, that's hilarious.
Fun times indeed. And once again, if you want to show up, just Google Bay Area Electronics Flea Market. I'll also put a link in the description, and their website has detailed notes on how to get there from anywhere in the Bay, and it'll be a good time. Come say hi, and yeah, hope to see everybody there. But in the meantime, we got to continue this show, and really, we got to take a break before we continue. Russ, what we lack in news this week, we are more than making up for what's in our pocket. We got a lot to talk about, and I did not expect to wake up this morning to a brand new Russ video covering the RG SP. Man, I am so excited to talk to you about this. I did actually watch the video. Like I saw it and immediately I was like, I gotta watch it. And so as I was watching it, I was just taking quick little notes in our show notes to be like, hey, I want to talk to him more about this. I want to talk to him more about that. But I guess like my first thing, like what's your high level? What's your TLDR for the RGSP?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like not an essential handheld if you've got their other ones, because it's just an iterative update, but it all comes together in this one where it didn't so much on the others, so it's really interesting. when in the intro I was like, hey, real quick video today or whatever. Like I was serious. I was not like joking. I was like, this is going to be done in 10 minutes, right? Because the only changes are the bezel and the buttons, and they added a sticker on the front, like they got a little logo or whatever.
I almost added that note in our doc too. I was like, real short, Russ, real short.
I was so serious. And then at the end, when I'd finished the edit, and it was kind of late last night, I was like, I should go and put in like a pop-up, and be like, he was lying, but I forgot that. And so it's just up, and it's just like me dead face, like saying, real quick video today, guys. And it's 30 minutes long.
Do you have comments? I didn't look at the comments of people being like, yeah, real short, Russ.
Yeah. Somebody, the best comment, and I like did like the heart on it so people could see it more, was, they were like, oh, Russ is getting into YouTube shorts. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, I guess my first question is not around the device itself, but I just had the idea of like, this is your first impressions video, and then you're going to make a review later.
No, this was the review too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is like, I'll cover it again, probably with like, hey, here's some software options, because there hardly was any. But no, that was like the review at this point.
So then, like, how do you parse that? Because some hardware you get in and you get a first impressions video and then a review, and then I mean this one just has a review. Like, how do you make that determination?
Yeah, so it really comes down to like my familiarity with it and whether or not I'm confident in being like, all right, like I have enough information now that I can just make the review. And so sometimes what I'll do, especially with an Anbernic, if it's an H700 device, like an XX device, it's like, I already know what the software is going to be. I already know what the performance is going to be. And they often will just reuse other parts I've already tested before. So at that point, I'm like, all right, I can actually day of make a review at that point, but then I always, test and try to find issues and stuff too. But for others, I will often like wait 3 days with it and then make the review. But this one, I just kind of, I don't know, I've been on a roll. Like I've been doing a new video almost every day recently. And I was like, all right, let's just do this one now. And mostly to make way for the RP Nova review, which I'm doing, which takes way more testing because that's like a new screen and like new types of buttons and stuff. And so that one I've been working on for over a week at this point. So yeah, it really just depends on the device.
Okay. Well, this device specifically, there are some interesting things that I love that you got into your video, because when you started talking about the charging issues, it was like a little aside kind of note, but I almost wish you could do a whole video testing on that kind of stuff, because I ran into it again when I was playing with the Miyoo Mini, and I was like, oh yeah, it's USB-C. I need to top it off. Let's go charge it. And I plugged it in and came back and I was like, wait, that thing's not charging. What the heck? Yeah. And then later I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this one. Like you have to have a specific either cable or wall outlet or something
dummy
like
plug,
that. And so I did find an older USB 2.0 cable that I was able to use, but like it is so weird how some of the handhelds are just wonky around that, and it's unfortunate. Right.
Yeah, it's one of those too. Like I have addressed it in several videos and stuff, but I've never made a dedicated video. And a lot of it is one, like I'm not an electrical engineer in any way or any of that. But then also, if you go on Reddit, you will see electrical engineers arguing with each other. And I can't tell who's right,
Really?
And they're talking about these devices like, no, it's this. And the other one's like, no, it's this, and they got evidence, they got all sorts of stuff. And I can just never really parse what's going on. And so often what I will do is I'll take those conversations and I'll send them to Anbernic or whoever and be like, fix this. This is what people are saying is the problem. What is the problem? And then they try to tell me, and it's like, they say something like a third thing that doesn't make any sense, And so I've always had a hard time just kind of understanding why these things don't work. And I understand a lot of these protocols, but man, it's complex.
I mean, I think what it boils down to is cost, right? It's like, like you're trying to hit a certain budget and it's like, okay, well, we need to, something somewhere is not aligning so that you can't use certain cables or chargers or whatever. So like, I guess I would love to hear if you reached out to Anbernic and was like, well, I mean, I guess that now I have a line to Anbernic, but reach out and be like, hey, listen, how much would it, instead of telling us what's wrong, tell us how much more expensive this device would be if it was going to work with anything. Right. Like if they came back and they were like, yeah, if we were going to do that, it would be $10 more expensive. then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, at least we would have that information, and maybe enough
Right.
people would be like, yes, I would pay $10 more to make sure that I can plug this in to any cable. I mean, I
So
don't
we
think they're
had
actually going to do that.
we had a
but-
pretty in-depth conversation about it when I was in China, and
Oh.
there's two things I learned. Number one is that they actually think it's solved. They think it's a solved problem because they added like an additional resistor, and so they're like, "What do you mean it doesn't work? It works for us and everything that we've tested." And so it's like conveying that to them has been difficult, and then also like huge language barrier, and even my interpreter, like it's very technical jargon, and so he tries to summarize it, and by the time he summarizes it, I'm like, he lost me, and so yeah, unfortunately, it's been hard just because they don't see the problem the way that we do, and so and I even in this video I showed off like I did 4 different charging like cables and different like speeds, and 2 of them didn't work, 2 of them did,
Yeah.
so
Were one I didn't hear you say it in the video, but I couldn't quite tell. Were any of those cables the ones that came with it?
no, because those are all C to C cables, and it didn't come with a C to C. It came with a C to A. So
Okay,
yeah, that'll
okay.
usually work on anything, but it's the C to C. Most people want that convenience of using their own plug and then their own cable that they're already using for their phone. And the issue, for those who haven't seen the video, it's basically a special chip that's in a lot of those high-end cables that can go up to like 100 watts. That chip doesn't play well with this. And my understanding is why is because they've only got one port for both USB and OTG. So for peripherals and stuff, and that requires a specific pin readout on the board. And that pin readout for OTG conflicts with certain charging protocols. And so that's kind of the issue too, is they want people to be able to plug in a controller because there's an HDMI port on this too, right? So you can plug this into a TV, plug it in another controller, and then you have like 2-player gameplay. And so they want that. It's built into the stock operating system. I don't think they want to give up that functionality. And so that's, I think, one of the major issues too.
I mean, who do you want that? How many people out there want that? I maybe I should make a poll and mark it right at this clip to say, do you want that? Would you rather have an OTG port combo, and have to then worry about charging, or would you rather ditch that whole OTG thing and just make sure that it charges with whatever cable you want?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, yeah, I would definitely be in that other camp where I would just want it to charge. This thing's got Bluetooth, so you could always do a Bluetooth controller. It's like Bluetooth 4.2, so there's maybe some lag if you had to set up like that, but still, and it's still a very niche use case, this is a handheld, not a dockable console, even though it is kind of dockable.
I mean, that was my other thing too, when you were like, oh yeah, mini HDMI, cool, it scales and stuff like that. And I was like, come on. Like, I like the idea of it, sure. It's like, okay, you could do that,
Right.
But like, especially this device, because it is so centered to be, hey, we're really trying to mimic the
GBA
Game Boy
SP.
Advanced SP. Like, we're trying to mimic this. We took off the sticks. We are really streamlining it so that it just looks and feels and acts just like a better version of the SP. I'm okay if they went the further distance and said, hey, you know what? We're not going to put a mini HDMI in here. We're not going to put the OTG cable kind of thing. Like, it's just not needed. And it's not even a cost thing. It's just more like a focus thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. And I agree with that. I think that you and I are probably not the best judges of that though too, because we got so many other options for playing on a TV and stuff. And, there is an allure to be like, hey, $65 for this thing. And it'll also be a console if you want. If you want to play NES games like on your TV, you don't have to buy anything else. You could just play this.
Yeah. Well, I did like that you had 2 on hand, and you kind of compared and contrast the plasticky feel of it. And like at first, like, I mean, I heard you say the words plastic, but I looked at it and it looked like the RG Rotate. Because that one was silver as well, the metal version, and I was just like, the plastic looks really nice, and the texture is nice. Like, does it actually feel like it's going to hold up over time?
Yeah, it does. So I've got the other silver one, like their old school one. So this is like 2.5 years old. I've got some wearing on like the edges, like on the corners. I can see some paint chipping off and stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's going to show up on the camera, but like right here, there's some paint chipping off and stuff. So yeah, it feels different. So there's probably some sort of different paint. I don't know if it's going to be more durable. Someone mentioned, another reviewer was like, oh, it feels like it's more easily scratched now because of this kind of more matte feeling, gritty feeling to it. So I don't know. I think it's one of those, time will tell, like there's certain things like the hinge, is the hinge all busted? I think it'll be fine because the other ones were fine. And then also, yeah, how is it going to scratch, especially for a device that's designed to go in your pocket? I mean, regular Game Boy Advances also get all scratched up and stuff too. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Also, I had a question. You were doing the tour, and showing how it compares size wise, and one of the things when you flipped it off to the side was it has volume buttons rather than the slider of the Game Boy Advance.
It's just like
SP.
regular buttons.
Yeah. Which do you prefer? Because I'm kind of torn between the two.
Yeah, I prefer scroll wheels. That's like my ideal. You know what I mean?
If
I had to choose,
okay.
Yeah, if I had to choose between a slider and buttons, I'd probably rather have buttons because the slider often will just accidentally get pushed to full volume. Like that happens on my DS all the time, my DS Lite. And so, yeah, I would prefer buttons over slider, but scroll wheel over buttons. Like the Neo Mini that you have actually has a scroll wheel, right? And so,
yeah, it does. Yeah. You know what? I think yes, scroll wheel for me is number one, but I really am kind of torn between the slider and not. Like maybe it's also partially because I like the 3DS. I always liked messing with the depth effect as well and trying to like tune that in. Right. Like so it's not even just the audio part of it, but it's also like it almost feels a little more fidgety than the buttons, which is weird. I mean, buttons are inherently fidgety, but yeah, I don't know.
So the Anbernic 34XX, that's the one that looks like the old GBA, the horizontal one. That one has a flick wheel. Like, the one that kind of stays center and then you could flick it one way or another. Oh. So that's what they have on that one, which is kind of interesting, instead of using a scroll wheel. And so
but
that
it's still
a
binary volume up, volume down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so I would put that one, gosh, maybe below a slider.
Yeah, I would rather have,
but I'd rather.
Yeah, that's my least favorite, I think.
Yeah.
Another thing I was going to ask, as somebody who has disassembled a Game Boy Advance SP many times recently, those little rubber parts that help like kind of protect it when it's closed. Yeah. How does that one feel on the RGSP?
So let me get my actual GBA out. So it's very similar to an actual GBA.
Oh, it is?
I've got my afterwork. So it's like a sticker, right? That has a bump on it,
Yeah.
And same thing here where the top ones stick out more than the shell and then the bottom ones are flush. So same thing on this SP as well.
Okay.
Where they stick out a little bit and it's fine. I mean, it's one of those where I usually use, like I've got my iFixit kit and it has like these really like kind of sharp pinchers. So I pull them out using those basically.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering, like, I couldn't tell if they were rubbery or if it was just hard plastic, what that was. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. One interesting thing I didn't mention in this video because it was in the others and I didn't really think about it, but there's like these tiny little bumps on the back, and so when you set it down, it doesn't go directly on the shell and like scratch against the table. Like there's these tiny little hard plastic bumps that stick out from the shell, and that's been on their other products as well, so it's not a new thing.
So it's like intentional.
Yeah, fully intentional. Like even they made a video the other day, like promoting their own product and like talking about all its features, and they mentioned that one as one of their features. So it's definitely intentional. Kind of cool.
Nice. One of the other notes is that as I was watching is that you showed off the little lanyard hole on the side, and I was like, man, I love them, but I never use them, and I see people like I've been watching a lot of handheld stuff on YouTube and like there's a lot of people who will like make over their DS, or like a lot of ladies who are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put charms on it and stuff like that, and like they always populate that lanyard's hole. Or like when we're in Taiwan, people are always having their phone on some sort of holster, or something like that, or using the lanyard on something. Yeah, and I was just like, I feel like it never took hold in my life, but it feels nostalgic in a way, and I like it. I'm glad it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. It's like, I'm glad they put that in there. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole, but like, I like that people can do that. They can like create it. Like, I'm never going to hang this from anything and like need to have it like that easily accessible. Like I'll just throw it in my pocket.
Yeah, I think more the other way for me these days is that I would rather hang something off of it. Like a little charm or something. I don't know like what trinket, I have, but like a little trinket thing. I guess, I don't know. I probably have something around here, but that might be kind of fun just to experiment and try out. Because maybe I'll report back and I'm like, nah, never mind. This I don't
Yeah.
want this.
I am excited to hear how people are going to work with this badge, like this sticker here, because it's not just a sticker, it's like indented, like in the shell, right? So people
Oh,
are going to
really?
be making small stickers and putting them in there.
Oh.
So I'm interested to see how people personalize this, because I am personally of the opinion that if it's like a emulation brand or whatever, like I don't really need to have the word Anbernic on my device. Like I don't, they used to put it on the bezel of their screens. So as you're playing a game, you would see the word Anbernic, and I was like,
It's
that's
kind of like
so
the Game
annoying.
Boy, right?
Yeah, but that at least has like a nostalgic fun to it. Like I don't get nostalgic for the word Anbernic. Maybe I will in 10 years.
Yeah.
But not right now. And so I
We
would
haven't
be
been doing it
interested
that
to
long.
see. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what people do with this little badge, little placement there. Just something fun, little pop.
Also, do you know how easy it is to reshell? If somebody like, do you think they'll pop up an aftermarket of shells and like, is this thing close enough that you could actually put the internals into a GBA? I mean, probably not, but
So I've done a full teardown with exception, like because I've done so with this guy, this red one, the older one, they made like this transparent back right here, and so they like provided stickers. You could put stickers inside the case, not on it, but inside, right? And so that was like one of the things that they sold, and so I like tried that a couple times, that kind of thing. So I've taken apart the top, I've taken apart the bottom to fix some of the buttons, like adding tape to them and stuff. But I've never pulled it off to the point of taking off the hinge part, because that always makes me a little nervous. But because usually you can just kind of open this top and then slide the sticker in. And so, yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like that's a pretty advanced teardown, like just in general. I'm sure the GBA SP is not fun either. So it's probably around
that
that
ribbon
same
cable,
level.
man. Oh,
Right, exactly. And so, yeah.
yeah. I
That's
don't know.
possible. I do see that they're probably going to do no new colors at some point. Like these are great, but they're all very samey. Just a lot of metallic pastel kind of coloring. We need a red one. We need like a cobalt blue, like the one that they did for the 34XX SP, which is also metallic. Like we need something like this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is. I mean, they're probably going to stick with this one for a while, right? Like this feels like they've refined this approach, and like I mean, there's not many drawbacks that, at least from watching the coverage, that
Right.
they're probably going to rush to redesign a RGSP2 anytime soon.
Yeah. No, I think that if anything, they might do a 3x or a 4x3 screen at some point, like, so it's not just for GBA only, but for everybody else, and maybe add the sticks back in. I don't know, that might make more sense there. Yeah, I think that they are going to kind of, it's interesting though. Like when when I was in China and they showed this thing off, there was a real reluctance when they handed it to me. They're like, fine, here you go. Like, here it is. Like, we know you've been asking for this thing, and we finally did it. But, it's like just kind of, it's like, because they want to like make a new design every time. They want to like just kind of push things further. And I'm like, how about you just give people what they want? Like so many comments are people like, just do these things and I will buy them, and this is like the one time where they're like, fine, we'll listen to you this time, and I'm hoping that it's actually a really good seller. Just
It's a good idea for companies to listen to their customers. Yeah.
Yeah, and the amount of positivity around this, like there's so much cynicism in the retro handheld world, especially like with this chip and with these cheaper devices that play up to PS1 like all the others, right? And then if you also go into Reddit, it's a lot of cynicism there too. But the combination of this thing and Reddit is actually a very positive place right now. People are like, man, finally they did it. They listened, and I can't wait to buy this thing, which is not something that you often will see in that same space.
Right. I mean, even to the point, and a little behind the scenes, like after, last week,
Yeah.
I think it was, maybe after the show, I was like, hey, Russ, do you mind hooking me up with a contact over at Emmernick? Because, I'm not interested in getting in all these handhelds like you, but this one specifically, I would love to get in because like
Right.
it is so close to the original hardware that it does have an appeal for me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I can see that definitely.
yeah, I'm excited. I think just like everyone else is, because yeah, there is something to be said about, hey, you know what? Here's an experience you love, and guess what? Here's just a brand new version of that. with
Right.
barely any downside, and it's got more upside.
Yeah, I really scrambled to find downsides, and my downsides were like, what? Yes, it's yet another SP device, so you may already have one, and then it does get a little bit warm when you're playing Dreamcast and with Wi-Fi on at the same time. And it's like, okay, like that's as far as, because it really is just what it's meant to be. It is just like an elevated Game Boy Advance SP experience. Everything is just very, very similar. I mean, I rarely use the words pitch perfect, but I felt like it was appropriate with this one in particular, especially because, I did a little bit at the end of the video where I was like, listen, you want to buy so the exact vendor where I bought this GBA from, which has a new screen on it, but doesn't have USB-C charging. Like I've got to use the old charging plug for it, it now goes for $210 is what they charge for this thing. You know what I mean? And that's not counting the cartridges and your EverDrive and everything else, which is going to, those are going upwards of $100. So you're looking at $300-ish to have this experience. Whereas you can just get this guy for $60, $65 with Wi-Fi, with HDMI out, whether or not you want that. With a better screen, 3x integer scale, and good buttons, and the ability to use save states and fast forward and all the other stuff you can't. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess the you mentioned the screen. The only other thing I can think of is that maybe would warrant an RG SP2 is to have an OLED version, but could they even at that size, like in that resolution?
I mean, they'd have to, they'd have to get one manufactured because I have never seen anything that's small. I think the best you could get is probably the one that they've got like the bottom screen of the Thor. And so that one is like it's more squarish, right? So it's not a GBA, but it actually, I think it does integer scale GBA at a 3x, I think, maybe 4x. And so, or no, it's very close to integer scale for GBA. So that one will look great, but it's going to make the device quite a bit taller. And so then you're looking at something that's like probably like that, like it's probably
it doesn't feel the
20% taller, which is going to feel awkward, kind of tall.
Also, you mentioned the warmth, and I was going to ask, like, does it feel like the warmth is getting centralized under your left hand or right in the middle, or like?
Yeah, right in the middle.
Okay, so it's at least kind of evenly distributed.
Yeah, this is a passive cooling, and so they probably, last time I tore one of these down, I didn't do a teardown for this one, but it's likely going to be just it's just going straight to the case, like from the shell. They might have a little heat sink there, but it's just kind of straight going there. They might actually, now that I think about it, in the previous models, they actually had the battery like touching it. So that was an issue where it was like the chip, then the battery, and then the shell. And I think that was on this one originally. And they added fish paper, which is like this special type of paper. It's like non-inflammatory, whatever. But the thing is too, and like a lot of conjecture about this too, is like the max temperature of the H700 chip doesn't even get close to the max allowed temperature of the battery anyway. So it's like, yes, it's heating it up and it might degrade it over time, but it's not a fire hazard, And so that's probably what's happening in this one too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and not that I think it needs active cooler or anything like that, but I do wonder if people are going to mod it somehow to maybe not get as warm, or do you think it's literally like, yeah, sure, it is an issue, but it's not that big of an issue. It's not going to like stop you from playing. It's not hot.
I mean, the other ones have existed for years, and I think I've seen like 2 fires like that people had, and it was a charging related thing that they had done, and it was literally a component on the board that had shorted. It was that kind of thing, not the battery or not the chip. And so so that's kind of like, and again, we're talking about however many of these things have sold. So yeah, who knows? I think that if it was an issue, it would have been more of an issue with the previous models, which have the exact same design and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see it, especially for GBA. You're not going to feel it with GBA. So,
right. Well, and that's the thing for me. Like, I think that's where it shines, and why having the extra mini HDMI and OTG and all that kind of stuff. Like even the L2 and R2, I'm like, do you need those? Like, I mean, they're probably not getting in the way, right? I mean, but
they're not in the way, but they're hotkeys for the most part.
Yeah.
So fast forward and stuff.
I guess it is nice to have that hotkey, capability, but like for me, like this is just like the perfect example of a single, either a single use device, or I don't mean 100% GBA. Like I think it's more like, okay, if you really love the GBA catalog and you're gonna like spend 90% in there, and then the other 10% maybe you'll load up something else like SNES or something like that. Like that's what I can kind of consider a single use device. But like that's why I'm like, take some of these things out that make it a little bit more all-arounder, because you're not going to get to an all-arounder status for this. Like this is just not an all-arounder kind of handheld. So might as well just lean in all the way. What do you think? You think it's too extreme, or?
In talking to them, and then Max Joe, who's like their technical director over there at Anbernic, one of his very first handhelds was called the KREV01 or something like that. But essentially it was a GBA clone, like actual clone. You could put cartridges in it. And it looked kind of like a Famicom controller, but it was actually like a little GBA. I've got it in the other room, but cool. But it was a sign of the times, because I think this was like a 2018, 2019 device. Like it had a 4:3 screen that didn't scale Game Boy Advance correctly. But it was like you could put in your Game Boy Advance games and play on it, and it also had emulators in it. And it sounds like to me, like that's the kind of thing that he was very interested in maybe pursuing again. Like that's where I kind of think that's where they would want to make something a bit more pure, is to be like, listen, this is an emulator. It's got a chip in it and whatever, but we also just put the clone hardware cartridge reader in here too, so you can put your cartridges in. So it's like best of both worlds, you know what I mean? Not necessarily FPGA on the chip, but the fact that it's a hardware clone too would be pretty neat. So I think that's kind of one of the things they've been thinking about.
I didn't even think about that, because like that would be really interesting. There's not many examples of that, right?
Yeah. That's the only one I actually have, is that K101 or whatever it's called. And because it was an emulator, you could put the cartridge in, but it also would emulate like NES games and stuff like that too. It's just kind of lousy because of the screen and the buttons. Again, a sign of its times. But here we are 8 years later, and I feel like it could be a lot better.
Right. That would be interesting. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, $65. Like I still feel like, especially in this economy, like that's a good deal, right? Or do you think this would have been a different price a year ago?
No, this was the same price. And that's the surprising thing to me, is it's the same price as the other ones were a year and 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
The only major difference, though, is this old 34XX SP, which had the same screen, that same like 3x2 screen. I really like this color, by the way. It's got like that Pikachu kind of look.
Pikachu, yeah.
Yeah. So this one had 2 gigabytes of RAM in it, it didn't matter at all for emulation. Like it actually didn't change anything. But for Portmaster, which a lot of these custom firmware support, which allows you to like play Linux ports directly on here. So you could play things like, what's the game before Oblivion that Elder Scrolls had? River?
Skyrim?
No, before that one.
Oh,
Morrowind.
Morrowind, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a port of Morrowind, and you could like play it on this thing, and it's just crazy. The PC game, you could play it on here. But it required like the full 2 gigs of RAM to really be playable, and it's not going to be the same experience on only 1 gig of RAM on this one. So emulation's not affected, but for those few people who were like, I want to play Balatro on this thing too, then that's going to be affecting there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Well, that's not the only new handheld you got in. You got another Retroid Pocket Nova. Wow, Russ.
Yeah, we didn't talk enough about it last week.
Well, yeah, actually, now you have one for each of your living rooms. So.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah. We actually had friends over last night, and I was like, they first time to come to the house, and like, yeah, check us out and stuff. And they're like, there's a TV. Like, yeah, and like, there's a TV. Like, yeah. And I'm like, go sit on that other couch. And so they sat on the game room couch, and you can still like kind of lean over and see the other TV, so you can watch 2 at once.
You should have been like, I'm a YouTuber. I need 2 living rooms. Come on.
It's more along the lines of like, my wife just doesn't want the kids playing games on her TV kind of thing. Anyway,
I get it.
So now I got 2 Retroid Pocket Novas. So this guy right here. So this is the 16-bit color option. So this all really came down from like last week with my impressions and stuff. I had the green one, with a transparent shell, but then I also ordered a transparent white shell one. But then once I got that green one, I was like, oh, I kind of want to feel what the other ones feel like in terms of the buttons and sharpness and stuff. And so I asked them to change my order and then rush it over to me. And so I got this 16-bit one here. And it feels different. It does feel different because of the buttons and stuff.
Like how much different? Like enough that somebody should cancel their order and change it? Like they're going to have an issue?
Yeah. So that's one thing I've been seeing all week is people are actually canceling their other orders because I said that the buttons were a little bit
you said it's going to be a big deal.
I know.
So
actually, I remember saying it was a little deal. But anyway, so people are really, they're kind of going with it, right? And I can tell the difference between the two. I still think that it's slightly sharper on this one than like on previous models. But again, I'm like, this is like nitpick city, and that's one of the hard things for me to kind of talk about. And I think I mentioned it in the video too. It's like if you got sensory, like specific, like Tech Dweeb likes to talk about how like he's very sensory oriented when it comes to like how something feels. He doesn't like something getting in the way of his fingers, So that's like the moment when it might affect somebody. But for everybody else, it's like one of those where it's like, maybe I should just keep my mouth shut when I notice something tiny like that. I think it's a good thing to have the detail, but at the same time, I don't like when people run with it either. So
yeah, I mean, it's or maybe it's more like, listen, you can tell the difference. There is a difference, but the difference like is not tangible. Like it's not like you would buy one over the other unless you know specifically why you would want to buy one over the other, right?
Yeah. And so one of the other great things they did is they sent me over a set of the black buttons that are matte like this one too. So they have a kind of softer feel on the edges here and just in general. It must be like the paint or whatever they're doing to like affect these colors is making it a little bit more rounded. So I can put the black buttons in my like clear devices and then like see if this is the combo. And I think the buttons are only like $5. So it's like for anyone who's actually concerned about it, throw those buttons in your cart when you're buying it, and then see, maybe that might be the solution there. So I'll test all that stuff in my review. But for now, I am going to stick with this guy as like my number one, because I like the retro look of it too. But then also the LED lights are much better on this compared to what I showed in the other one.
Better?
Yeah. So let me.
As in like it's more vibrant or.
No, it's more balanced. Like in the video, I showed they kind of had like a 4-way look to them on the clear one. Yep. And so now they're just kind of like
more even,
just standard. And so I don't usually use these lights, but I just if I am going to, playing like a game that's very orange or something, let's make it blue and then have a nice contrast, something like that. And there are apps that will like change the colors of the sticks based on what's happening on the screen. Like it reads the screen for you, and then it kind of so it's like those those TVs that do that stuff
with the backlighting.
So, yeah. So you can do that stuff too. So yeah, I'll probably stick with this one. It feels just a bit more nostalgic to me. I know people love their transparent colors and stuff, but I didn't really own anything during that era in the like 90s and early 2000s, and so for me, this kind of like Super Nintendo feel is better for me.
It also felt more in line with Mr. Dweeb, like because his review, like he mentioned in his review like he appreciates more retro colorways or whatever, and it did feel really weird to have him be reviewing something like outside of that taste, but no,
I found it very curious that they only sent so many of those green ones to everyone, and I thought there was going to be just colors everywhere, so everyone, I still haven't seen like a watermelon like the red one in real life yet, so I was hoping to see a smattering of that stuff, but when everyone got green, I was like, wow, that's kind of surprising to me.
Maybe that was the first one that came off the line, or the one
maybe time was of the essence.
Or they made too many of that one, and they're like, oh no, everyone else is ordering this. We gotta send the reviewers these.
Right.
Who knows? Yeah. But you're still working on a review on that one.
Yeah, this will be my next big video. What's today? Wednesday. So I probably will have it out Saturday. Like I want to say Friday, but it's like I know I'm going to buckle under just the pressure of my own doing, and be like, oh, I got to get this right. So I'm going to say Saturday for that one.
Any preview of what notes that you have after your impressions video?
So I'm gonna break it up differently than the other one. Like I want this to be a really tight video, and so what I will end up doing instead of like dwelling on the thing,
tight?
Yeah, 30 minutes. But I'm going to like really try to focus on specific topics, like specifically what are the color options and how do they matter, and that's when I'll talk about buttons and stuff, and then like specifically what are the accessories that could enhance this experience. So then I'll talk about docking it, using that dual screen setup. And so it's like I want to do like full on themes, like chapters kind of thing, which I often will not do. I usually just stick to my kind of rote kind of script, And so this time around, I'm really thinking about like what is going to really enhance like the buying experience of this thing, and as opposed to just like, oh, the buttons are good and oh, it plays this game or whatever. So yeah,
cool. That's awesome. And anything else in your pocket?
No, I think that's it between the SP and the Nova. I got some others I'm working on, like the Mangmi Air Y, which is like their vertical handheld. And that was actually supposed to come out tomorrow. And they emailed me. I'm like, we need another week. And so I'm like, perfect, because I don't want to work on it right now. I got to work on the Nova. So
you're like,
yeah.
that's okay. I'm not.
Yeah, what a shame, So yeah, honestly, this week for me has been about catching up on obligations that I had made previously. So like that's why I had back to back videos recently. It was like that GPD eGPU, and then that 8-bit DO controller comparison and stuff, and then the 1X Player 3. Like all three of those were obligations that months ago they said, hey, do you want to check this thing out? And I'm like, sure. And then it was getting close to the deadline of and there's no like deadline like, hey, you must post it on this day. But I also want to make sure the video's out before the pre-order campaign ends. So that way, if someone knows they want to get it, they'll get it for cheaper, And so that's why I have so many back-to-back videos, is because I was like, I got to get these things out. And so that's what I did there. But now that I'm like actually making the videos I want to do, it's it's Nova time, basically.
It's Nova time.
Nova time.
I like that. Yeah, you should start the video like that. Yeah, it's Nova time.
That's right.
Sweet. Well, I've been playing some stuff.
Let me see it.
Yeah, last week we talked about the what is it? The Super Pocket, the Hyper Megatech Super Pocket. Yeah, big name. That uses the Evercade cartridges, and I messed around a little bit with the built-in stuff. More like, the thing is, I'm not a huge Rare guy. Like especially Banjo.
Really?
Like I never really played them. I don't have huge nostalgia for them. Like, is it your jam or?
No, I mean, I when I got the Analog 3D, which is the their N64 FPGA machine, that's the game I focused on the most, and I got like 2 hours into it, and I'm like, wow, look at me, I'm a superhero. Like, I've got so far into this game, but then I got so lost, and I'm like, where am I supposed to go next? It's so obtuse in some ways. We have so many good creature comforts nowadays where it's like you pause it and it tells you what to do next, or like you can get an arrow if you want. You don't have any of that stuff. So I'm actually stuck in that game right now. So yeah, not a huge fan of Banjo. It's fun. I'd rather play Mario, but yeah.
Yeah, for me specifically, like on the built-in, because this is the Rare edition, like I did load up Banjo once again. Like I have no reverence for it, but also the control scheme was a little hard, like on these face buttons. I mean, listen, it's not going to map 1-to-1 to the N64 or like Dreamcast, anything like that, and especially no dual stick, like, and so I and it's not just Banjo, it's some other games too that I've come across where I'm like, like the control layout like feels a little,
I mean, with Banjo specifically, like one of the things I learned by playing it on the Analog 3D and using the 8-bit DO controller that has the C buttons, like the true Nintendo 64 buttons, those C buttons have functions where you do a combination of C button plus, the analog stick to do special moves that I didn't even know existed, because on most retro handhelds, the C buttons are mapped to the right analog stick. And who's going to flick a right analog stick while doing something else to do a move? Like, I didn't know that was a thing. And so, much like with yours, right? You've only got 4 face buttons, and I'm assuming they're not mapped to the C button specifically, and so you might be limited in controls with that game too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know Banjo enough to know what's mapped to what. I mean, it's not like I couldn't do anything. I think it's just more like I don't know what I'm missing. So
Gotcha.
I wonder what people would feel like who are big fans.
Sure.
But also the other weird part of it too is the ergonomics of the back buttons. So like the back buttons are kind of lined up across it's almost like right in the middle of the device, maybe a little bit higher than the middle, and then it kind of has this ridge, which like my index fingers kind of sit on the ridge, and then naturally my middle fingers want to kind of sit like this.
Yeah.
I've got bigger hands, that's why I don't like the vertical ones. But then if I want to hit the back buttons, I'm kind of having this weird like hand claw movement of trying to press anything.
That feels unnatural.
Yeah, and also the back buttons, I don't know if you can tell this, they're not flat, they're curved, but also this bottom curve is higher. So it kind of like swoops this way.
Like
almost to try to like hold your fingers, from like falling off. But like, I don't know, it's just the comfort is just not jiving with me. It's weird.
So, like beyond Banjo, there are a ton of rare games that I loved, right? So they did like, I think they worked on RC Pro-Am on the NES, and then obviously like Battletoads and stuff. Are those on there? Or
So RC Pro-Am is on here, and that is
Okay.
the one game that I have been playing that I'm like, oh man, I love RC. There was the version that was on the Game Boy. God, what was it? It was like, I don't remember. It was an RC Pro-Am on the Game Boy, and I played
Okay.
the crap out of that one. This is not the same game. This is here. I'll just bring it up here. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's specifically RC Pro-Am 2.
Okay.
I would dim it, but there's no brightness control. So sorry, it's a little blown out. But man, I'll tell you what, like, yeah, of all the games on here, because I'm also not a huge Battletoads, so it's got Battletoads 1 and Battletoads in Battle Maniacs, Cobra Triangle, Conker's Pocket Tales, Gunfighter, Jetpack, Night Lore. Like, I haven't played all of them, but yeah, RC Pro-Am 2 is the one that, like, I don't know, it's such a comfort kind of thing, and the controls work well for this because it's kind of simplistic like that.
So I was looking it up as you were talking. So Super RC Pro-Am is the Game Boy one. So I only played the original. I never played the second one. So that's kind of interesting to me. Like, I've got a lot of nostalgic for the first one, but definitely not that second one.
I mean, this is not like the
ones,
Game Boy one, but I mean, it feels like the Game Boy one, right? Like, it's got the same power-ups, oil slicks, all that kind of stuff. And so, like, it's almost playing like a new version of it. Which is kind of fun. So, and it's nice that it is built in. We talked about the whole price equation of like, hey, I mean, if you really are into a lot of these rare games, then you get this one, you get the cool colorway. It's kind of, a free cartridge, if you will. And interesting enough so I did pick up a cartridge I want to talk about in a second, but to switch to it, you have to hit the menu button right here in the middle, and it brings up a little overlay. And so the top one says, it's blown out, so I'm just going to say it says rare at the top. And then when an Evercade cartridge is in here, there's a second option to then hit the Evercade cartridge. So that's how you launch into the Evercade cartridge, and then like whatever cartridge is in there, you have its own carousel. At first I thought like, oh well, in this main menu when you first turn it on, maybe when I slot the cartridge in, the additional games get added to it. It's not the case. It's a separate menu, which whatever, it's not a big deal.
Sure.
But yeah, so the fine folks over at Evercade had sent me a bunch of carts, and there's some cool stuff on there, but like nothing that, like when I look at the list of carts that they have, like there are certain ones that I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that one. So I went to my local game store here in the Bay Area. It's called it's on Alameda Island. It's called Experience Share. I love hanging out there. Cool people, cool vibes. It's fun to just sit in there and just look at everything for like 20 minutes. But they did have some Evercade cartridges there, and I remember looking. It was a couple months ago when I first saw them. I was like, oh, hey, it's kind of hidden back, tucked in a corner in a glass case kind of thing, because I think they'd been sitting there for a while. But I went there specifically again to be like, oh, you know what? Do they have anything off of the list that I want to get? And they did. They actually had the cartridge so this is the Duke Nukem Collection 1. Oh. So it has Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, and then Duke Nukem 3 Total Meltdown. And I was like, okay, I mean, I love Duke Nukem. So, I had to pick this up. And a couple notes on this one, like Duke Nukem 3D. I mean, were you a fan of Duke?
I played a little bit. I got really into like Doom and Wolfenstein. I never had like a PC that could play games until much later in life. And so I would play it at friends' houses, and I'd heard about Duke Nukem, but like my friends' parents wouldn't let them have it. And so so I read about it in magazines. I played it later on, obviously, in life, but I didn't, in the heyday, I wasn't able to play it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that I've just played so many times with so many different iterations and so many different ways. So like, especially that first level is just iconic, and I know, everything about it, whatever. Not saying I'm an expert at it, but it just like, I love it. So I booted it up, and like once again, it was a control scheme, which was a little weird. Like because it doesn't have the dual stick. And I mean, Duke, you don't really have native, what is this, Y-axis, the up and down, like so tilting. I mean, it was kind of hacked in for some later versions, but this one doesn't have it. so the left and right was fine, but then
Mm-hmm.
you do the front and backward. So essentially, if you need to rotate, like there's no strafing. Essentially, you like walk forward and then rotate, walk forward, rotate, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So it's, I mean, which is kind of how we played it back in the day. So
Right, you
whatever-
had to hit a key to strafe, right? Back in the day, right? You
Yeah,
do a shift
yeah.
or something. Well, at least in Doom. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess it's kind of period accurate, whatever, but like it was still like every once in a while, like it would kind of hitch a little bit performance wise, things like that. So like it took me a little bit out of the nostalgia train, which was a bummer,
Yeah.
for Duke Nukem 3D specifically. But then I loaded up 1 and 2 remastered, and that one I have not played the original ones in a long time, and to the point where my memory was actually mixed, because do you know that the original Duke Nukem 1 and 2 are side scrollers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and there was another one called Commander Keen.
Right.
And
Yep.
I always think back in the day when I was playing DOS games on my parents' 486, like if I think about playing a little character running around in a side-scrolling kind of thing, that I was like, oh no, that was Commander Keen. I was playing that. And then I loaded it up on here because I literally haven't played it in so long, and I played it and I was like, oh no, it was Duke. I was playing Duke back in the day. And so, yeah, like picking up the little power-ups of the soda can or the little
Right.
radio, or, getting, I don't know, shooting the enemies, having the little wave gun kind of thing. Like, and I was just
Yeah.
like, that's hilarious. I totally remembered me playing this game, but I thought it was a different game.
I always mixed up those two, and then Jazz Jackrabbit, which was like a very similar game but with a rap, and that's like made by Cliff Bleszinski, whatever his name is, the guy that did Gears of War. And yeah, like those three again, because I just didn't have the opportunity to play most of these games when I was younger, so I just kind of mixed them all up, But yeah, I feel like the original Duke Nukems are like the ones that I probably would like the most today.
Yeah, it was fun, and like that was a perfect experience on this. Like to revisit it, like that nostalgia just hit me. The controls didn't get in the way, whatever. Like that one was definitely awesome. And like I think that's overall, TLDR on a lot of this Evercade stuff is that sometimes the experience just hits and it works, and then I'm just like thrown back in. But then sometimes it doesn't have like the same impact that I wish it kind of had.
Right.
So it's hit or miss. I guess it depends on the games and things like that. And it always surprises me because one of the other collections I want to pick up is the Duke Nukem Collection 2, which has the PlayStation 1 Time to Kill. Like,
Okay,
horrible
yeah.
game. Horrible game. But man, did I play the crap out of that when I was young. And now, like, after playing Duke Nukem 3D, I was like, man, how is that thing going to run on there? And like, what are the controls going to be like? Is it even going to feel right? So yeah, that one has me a little worried, but I mean, I would still like to get it.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear how that all plays out. I mean, it's funny too, because you could just emulate that at any time on any of the other devices you have, but you're like, oh no, I want to get the cartridge so I can slot it in and finally play this game that I've had access to this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like that, like I do love the idea of Evercade. Like the fact that they're still making physical carts, and like you can go buy them and you own them, and they're officially licensed.
Right.
Like I want to love this whole system, and I want to support it. So I do like that idea of being like, oh sweet, you have some of my favorite games on this cart. I would love to have the version of this.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them they just don't print. Like as far as I know, the Duke ones are out of print. So that's why I was glad I was able to at least find this one. And there's a couple other ones too that I'm like, oh, that would be really cool to have off the catalog. But yeah, like it's not. I mean, I guess Evercade isn't really trying to come out and saying, hey, these are the best way to play these games. It's more
Right.
like, hey, here's official ways to play the games that you love in a fun new way. Yeah.
And really, it's one of the only, I mean, beyond just like obviously going to like GOG or Steam or something and buying a collection that may have some of these older games in it, this is like the only way that you can buy some of these games. Like you can always grab them off the internet, but buying a game, like, hey, I want to buy this game. Sure, the money is probably not going to the guy who like coded it the first time, but it's going to somebody who at least owns that license. And yeah, I like that idea too.
Yeah. So cool stuff. I mean, I want to continue to play around with it because at the end of the day, I mean, the hardware is one thing. I mean, we even have the Nova, coming out later this year. We'll see how that is. Maybe that changes the script because that one has 2 analog sticks and it's maybe more suited for Duke 3D. And there, I'll be like, oh, awesome, cool. This is the better way to play it. But I mean, it's fun, and it is a nice way to at least sit down and be forced to experience something. You've talked about this a little bit, and like sometimes like loading up every ROM ever on these handhelds is just like debilitating, and it's better to just say, hey, you know what? I'm only going to put a handful on there, and like this forces you to do that, and I kind of like that. So
I agree with that. Like, I don't like the Netflix like browsing for games game. Like, I'd rather just play the games. One quick correction though. You said call it the Nova, but it's called the Nexus. I actually had I had to look it up because you were like, oh, the next one, and I was like, they're so close, and I was like, Nexus. I can't believe they also called it Nova, right? And I'm like, oh man. And then I was like, oh no, it's the Nexus.
No, Nexus. Very you're similar. Right. Evercade Nexus. Yeah. But that's not the only thing I've been playing with. I also have, I continue the love train of the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Oh man.
Yeah, like this,
I want to hear more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like to the point where on my bus rides into the city, I've replaced my PSP with this.
Wow.
Which it's not a great replacement because the PSP can just go to sleep, but at least like I know how long it takes the bus ride, and I can kind of look out the window and be like, where am I? You know what? I should probably figure out a way to save or get somewhere, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And hope I can, by the time I get to the end of the bus ride, it's a good spot. But man, I love it, and I love the fact that people got in the comments after last episode and was like, "Oh yeah, dude, the Neo Geo Pocket Color is awesome." Just like I didn't think that many people would have so much to say about it, so it was kind of cool to see that a lot of people actually do appreciate it, and plenty of people being like, "Hey, yeah, there is like no major handheld that I can think of that has come out and like kind of emulated this, either from a design perspective or the control nub kind of thing." Yeah. So yeah, I love it, man. I can't put this thing down. And like I dug into a couple of the specs, so I wanted to see the IPS mod that was put in on this, and like go back and watch review videos. So I did find out it's the high speed IDO. Okay. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, so it's that IPS mod, and I went back and watched Mr. Nacho, his review Nacho. Of it at the time. And yeah, like I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I actually learned something. I learned how to bring up the on-screen overlay because like it has 2 capacitive like touch at the top, and so that's how I've been navigating stuff. But if you hold the option button and A and B at the same time, it'll bring up an on-screen overlay, so it's kind of a little easier to navigate, or at least see what you're doing in the navigation. And I was like, oh, that was kind of funny to go back and watch. Like I think it was literally from like 2019 or something like that.
Wow.
So it's been a while, but one of the options that's in here is the option for a pixel grid. So like I can't remember exactly how they call it, but essentially it's adding a grid layer over the top of it. And I was going to ask you, are you somebody who like does the pixel grid stuff, or do you like clean pixels?
I do use the pixel grid for the most part, like an LCD shader and stuff. Like so with like Game Boy Advance and stuff, and I would use it on that. Absolutely. Basically anything that had an old LCD screen like this one, I would usually add that shader. It makes it darker, which can be a pain depending on the device, but yeah, that's totally what I would do.
Yeah. And I mean, they kind of come in different qualities too, like I feel like, but for this one, like it feels, I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the original screen, so I don't know. But like it feels like it works with the system.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I really like that's probably the thing that prevents me from using mine is just like this screen is so hard to see, unless it's perfect conditions. And yeah, I feel like if I did have a backlit screen, I would be more into it. I'm assuming it's a solder job, like it requires quite a bit more work to get it going.
Yeah, I mean, at least watching this one, I know there was another one that Mr. Nacho had reviewed, or previous or something like that. But this one, yeah, like it was actually fairly easy though. Like when watching it, I was it's a couple wires here and there, and I was like, oh, you know what, I kind of already did that for my PS mod for my GBA SP, so it didn't feel that far out of the realm of like something that I would do even as a noob. So like I think it's something you might want to look into for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know if they still sell it.
Yeah, that's the thing I got to look into.
Yeah, I guess I didn't look that up. And if you do keep the original shell, it does require you to snip a little bit, but they do have aftermarket shells. So I'm going to assume that this one is snipped because I think this is the original shell for it.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep my original. I love this thing.
But yeah, so after last week, if you remember, I was like, man, I was trying to find a flash cart everywhere, and I couldn't find a flash cart anywhere.
Right.
And then, Russ, you were like, oh, hey, I found one. You should go pick it up. And so I scrambled and got it, and it was from a company out in the UK. So it was a little elevated compared to the US pricing, but I was like, you know what? Is this going to be my last chance to get a flash cart? I don't know. I might as well hop on it. And then something happened that has never happened to me before, is that I got an email from Customs being like, oh, we have your package at Customs and you need to pay a price to get it to clear, or we're sending it back to the seller. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, and it was $30. Like the card itself was over $100, and then the customs clearance was $30, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I kind of really want the cart, so I guess I'm like, in the whole way.
I've definitely had that, recently with tariffs and stuff. I've had to pay, like these review units I get in, I often will pay just to get the pleasure of reviewing them, and so, but I haven't heard that from the UK. That's interesting. So
yeah, that was a weird one. That was a weird one. But either way, it did come in. So I end up picking up the Retro HQ game drive, and this is the same one you have, right?
Yep, that's what I got.
Yeah. So. So you said it was 3D printed and like it felt a little weird, but like I mean, it is 3D printed. You're not wrong, but I kind of like it. It almost feels like cardboard in a like
it's
sturdy,
kind of homemade feeling.
Has a texture, yeah. Even on the back, I didn't realize the back had like an
thing.
Engraving kind of thing, which was really cool.
It's got a nice homemade kind of quality to it that I like.
Yeah, because I thought it was going to be that traditional 3D printed like structure kind of feel. That everybody knows, but no, it almost feels like a really high quality cardboard cart, which is kind of fun. And then you just stick the micro SD card in the little top notch here, which is nice. And I had to figure out which one I was going to use for it. But I was surprised because I knew that it could only load 15 megabytes, I think, at a time. So you can only have a certain amount of games. But I didn't realize the mechanism was that you could still have as many ROMs as you want on the micro SD card, but then depending what you want to play, then you have to go in and copy it over into memory. I can't remember what they call it, and then as I was reading, it came with like a little pamphlet kind of thing, which I thought was nice because a lot of these flash carts sometimes just come with like nothing. But as I was reading it over, they were like, oh, well, if you want to switch it out, it actually keeps the save game with it, so that you just like, so you still have access to everything, but you kind of have to bring it in and out depending, almost like checking out of a library or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
Yeah, it's good way of putting it. Yeah, you got to load it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after I got this in, sure enough, I got a flurry of emails in my box saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, the Game HQ drive or the Retro HQ game drive is available on the site that I was looking at." And I was like, "Oh." So, like they just came back in stock at a what was the let me look
They're
up
waiting
the site.
For you to make that one purchase, then they can bring it back.
I was like, "Oh my god, that was like horrible." Cuz I had signed up for the alerts through Stone Age Gamer.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that was like the best option for US, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, whatever. I spent more than I needed to, but at least I got it, I guess.
Yeah. So what are you playing on it?
So Yeah, so on the game drive specifically, I have a couple games loaded. Only 2 games loaded right now. One of them is Neo Turf Masters, so the golf game, which I've
Golf,
actually
yep.
played before because they released it on the Switch, and man, oh that's a good golf game. Have you played it?
One of, I have played the Pocket Mini one, but I love the Neo Geo, like the original arcade one. One of my favorite golf games of all time.
Yeah, yeah. Like my favorite golf game of all time, and I never know how to pronounce it, but it's like Wily Country Club on the Super Nintendo.
I never played this.
Yeah,
I never even heard of it.
I'm totally saying it wrong, but it's whatever that famous um, golf course is, and like they just had a Super Nintendo. Here, let me look up Super Nintendo.
I gotta look.
Golf.
Yeah, I've never even heard of this.
Um. Okay, no, it's not PGA Tour. I actually have the cart. I should have brought it up, but yeah, it starts with a W.
Oh man,
let's see if I can-
I'm looking at the wrong list right here. Like I just pulled up all golf games ever made. It's like this is too
yeah,
much.
yeah. Okay, here we go. So, it's True Golf Classics : Wailea Country Club, WAIALAE. So I have no idea where this country. Oh, it's in Honolulu.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Hawaii. Wailea. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
Hawaii.
How'd you pronounce it?
Wailea. Yeah,
Wailea,
Wailea.
okay.
Yeah, there's only like 12 letters in the Hawaiian alphabet, you know. So Wailea. Yeah, it's an area. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that is my favorite golf game of all time.
Man, now I gotta play it. I didn't realize. Yeah, that was. I'm like, is he just saying Pebble Beach wrong? Like, what is going on here?
But yeah, Neo Turf Masters like comes in at a close second, and especially when you hit a drive right on like the meters or whatever, and it like cuts to that quick screen of like, oh, great drive, and I'm just like, yeah. Or like if I get a bogey, and then all of a sudden all those people standing in the back just
Yeah,
looking
not
at me like,
happy.
and I'm just like, oh man, I feel
Yeah.
ashamed of myself.
So those are the games. That's the game you're like playing on the bus, and you're like, oh, I got to get to this hole like before
Well,
you're.
luckily, it has a feature that in between each hole, you can
Yeah.
actually pause. It'll make a save state. And so
Oh, wow.
it'll give you the option. If you hit option, it'll say, "Hey, do you want to not only save
quick
the
save.
state? It'll put the device to sleep." And I'm like, "Oh, that's
Wow.
perfect." So like I was playing rounds of golf, and by the time I got to the end of the bus route, I hit that and was like, "Cool, I can pick this up on the way home." Unfortunately, I turned it back on and it did not stay, or I don't know how to reload it
Oh.
or something. I need to look it up because maybe I'm doing
Yeah.
it wrong, or maybe it's a limitation of having the flash cart. But like it actually didn't save the state in between.
Interesting.
So
the save state thing is a function of the Neo Geo Pocket Color itself or the game?
no, it was the game. Yeah. So
the game has
there's a
this. Okay,
screen in between each hole that says, "Hey, hit the option button to save
Interesting.
your." It doesn't say save your state. It just says like hold your place and fall asleep or something. I can't remember the actual
Gotcha.
verbiage, but it isn't working for me, and I think maybe I just don't know how to do it. But anyway, the other one on there is a strategy game that I have barely scratched the surface of, and I'm gonna butcher the name of this too, but it's like Facilei, FASELEI apostrophe, or no
Okay.
exclamation mark. So it's
Yeah,
it's
that's not a Hawaii name, I can tell you. Now.
yeah, that is not a Hawaii name. This is a tactical role playing game, like, and everything that I've seen of it so far and have played, like I've only done like the first couple missions. It's super cool because like you're essentially like a little mech going around a battlefield, and you're timing your turns. So you don't like turn-based stuff. Okay, you're not gonna like this. So everyone on the play field has turns, and you pick your turns, but it doesn't. It then you say, okay, those are my turns. And now everyone play out in real time. So it's not like I take my turn and then he takes your turn. It's more like everyone has a set route, and then you put in, do I go forward one step, turn left, then forward one step, then fire my missiles, and then you hit go. And so you could like load up this whole path to go aim and shoot somebody, but by the time you're there, they have moved over here, so you're shooting at nothing.
I like that. That sounds more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, like it's got for a Neo Geo Pocket Color, it's like the story seems kind of dark and interesting. Like, yeah, so I really want to get more into it. But yeah, but that's not the only stuff, because while I was at the game store, I found another cart. So if you remember the what is it, the SNK versus Capcom Match of the Millennium, that's the one that Steve gave me with it. But on my list of carts that I wanted to pick up, they also had one there. This is SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters Clash. So yeah,
so a card fighting game.
Yeah, and the set. Oh man, why is my anyway? There it is. So yeah, and this is the Capcom version, because they made like, so essentially this is like SNK versus Capcom Pokemon. Like you're walking around like as a little kid battling people with cards, and that you're not like collecting Pokemon or anything like that, but you're collecting cards, and like the whole idea is that there's this tournament going on, and you just got to go for these buildings in the city and like just find random people and talk to them, and then they'll be like, hey, do you want to battle me? And then you'll go into the battle, and it's like a card based kind of battle system. And I haven't like completely ironed out the intricacies of the play mechanics, but like it really feels like, I don't want to say a knockoff Pokemon game, but it feels like very of the era, because it was 99, right? Pokemon was the big thing, so it feels like that this was like the Neo Geo Pocket Colors Pokemon. And yeah, it's fun, dude. It is really fun.
So you're just playing as a kid, like it's not like you're playing as an SNK character or anything, right? Like they're the cards that you're using, is that how that works?
the cards have the characters on them, and so they'll do things based off the character, or they'll have abilities that will help out your other character. So like I can't remember what it's called, but essentially if you put down a card, say I play Ryu, and then if I get Ken in my hand, he can back up Ryu. He can't back up Cammy or whatever,
Gotcha.
some other character, but he can back up Ryu. So like you try to get like hands where you can like have the same powers, and you get a bonus and things like that. And I mean, it is a card based game, and it is like turn based. So I don't know how much you will love it, but like the vibe is really cute and it's fun, and like you are like there's plenty of like Capcom character nuggets in there that are really fun. I'm not like a huge SNK guy, so I don't like, I recognize some of the characters, but I'm like, I don't, the references are lost on me. But there's like Jill from Resident Evil in there, and it's cool. It's a fun game, and I'm glad I picked it up. Funny enough, the SNK version of this is more expensive than the Capcom version, and I don't know how different they are, so I might actually load up the SNK ROM on the flash card just to see like the difference. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's probably like Pokemon Red versus Blue, right? A little different, but for the most part the game's the same.
Yeah, maybe there's like some special card in the SNK one that everyone wants or something, you know how it is. But
yeah,
it sounds interesting. I don't really mind card-based games like this. I think they're kind of fun. I mostly like, I think of them as like in games, like in the middle of like Final Fantasy IX, there's a card game, things like that. That's kind of how I think about it. So yeah.
No, it's fun. I don't know how long it is, and I don't know how far I am in it. Right now, I need to beat enough people to enter the tournament, and so like I'm just trying to go to each building and clear everybody, in that area. But yeah, super cute, super fun. I probably look like a real weirdo too on the bus. Like I'm sure somebody who has no idea. Yeah, like
because you're such a big guy, and then like such a small handheld, and you're like playing. You're like,
but it's that. But I also feel like if somebody saw me playing my PSP or my DS, I feel like somebody could like at least clock that and be like, oh, that's funny, look at this guy, he's into retro stuff, I bet he collects records. I do actually. But like they would probably have no idea what the hell this is, and they'd be like, what is that little like piece of junk that they're playing on?
Yeah, it does. It kind of looks like, it doesn't, it's almost like so chunky that doesn't really register as a gaming handheld. It's almost like, oh, he's playing on a camera. Like, is that a Polaroid? Like, what is he doing?
Yeah. But I mean, it is like, man, the ergonomics of it, like Yeah, I just love how thick it is. Like, yeah, you get a good grip on it.
Yeah.
It's fun. Unfortunately, like the battery. So the one of the things I guess I should have mentioned when I was watching Mr. Nacho's review of the screen, I think he claimed about like 5-hour battery life on 2 AA battery, whereas the original screen got like 30 or 40 hours or something like that. But
I've
for
never
me, I'm
changed
like,
the batteries on this thing.
yeah, I was
been
like,
years.
you know what? It's a trade off I'm willing to have. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
5 hours is not bad. I think I've only swapped the batteries once so far.
Yeah, not bad.
So yeah, hasn't been too bad. Yeah, I guess so I did pick up some other stuff at my my haul at the game store, but I'm gonna hold on to that for a different day.
Okay.
So I got some other fun stuff, but I think we're going a little long. We should probably take another ad break, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, we're back with some questions before we get it out of here. We got people over there raising their hand, so I'm going to call on them
You in the back.
orderly contact. Yep. If you have a question and you're not here on the expedition with us, then the best place to do it is to go to the link in the description. We have the Full Nerd Discord and a channel over there called EH-questions. You can put a question in there and hopefully be read on the show. We're trying to chip through them. But still a lot of good questions coming in. So you over there, Arcadia has a question. I won't try to back you guys into a buying advice corner before getting proper first impression reviews of the Retroid Pocket Nova. Look pretty awesome. Yes, they do. Already. Since I've been hovering over an add to cart of the Anbernic RG 477M, seeing a strong new 4x3 device with an amazing screen, stacked shoulder buttons, and properly place start and select for a similar or cheaper price seems like a no-brainer for me. My question is, though, could the 12GB one be worth it? Being fairly new to this, I still have yet to venture into a handheld so powerful, but I like the idea of pushing it with Steam games, maybe. Also, I'm a stickler for things filling my screen, and would probably only try games that I can run on it and that support 4x3. So, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, so there's two options in terms of RAM, 8 or 12 gigabytes for the Nova. And this is a common question, is like, okay, which one's going to be the best for what I want to play? If you're just playing emulation, right, that the lower spec model will be absolutely fine. RAM is not really an issue when it comes to emulation until you get to like playing Tears of the Kingdom kind of thing. Like, I think there's a benefit of going beyond 8 gigabytes, but for the most part, 8 is going to be fine, especially with this chipset. And if you're sticking to 4x3 content, then anything you can throw at it's going to be absolutely fine. But they do mention PC games and Steam and stuff. So there's a limitation there in that whether or not you want to play games in 4x3, because they said they're a stickler for that, right? And I've been messing around with that, trying to find games that run in 4x3. And there's some lists on Steam and stuff that will help with that. But I found the two major games I've installed so far have been, let me double check. One's Skyrim, the special edition, and then the other one is Halo Master Chief Collection.
Oh,
both of those run natively 4x3. And probably because they're like from an earlier era, and so it's just kind of is carried over in their scaling and stuff. And so I played like Halo 3 last night. Like there's that second or third mission where you're in the bunker and you're like going back and forth. It's like the worst level. So I played through that whole thing yesterday, and it works fine. 60 frames per second, pretty stable at like a lowish settings, but you cannot tell on a 4.5-inch screen that it's low versus high settings, And then Skyrim chugs a bit. So that one might actually benefit from having more RAM. But again, those are the edge cases, right? Everything else that you're going to try to play generally will not really require additional RAM. Now, if you're really trying, like, I know GTA 5 actually has a 4x3 option. So you could put GTA 5 on that. I don't want to waste 100 gigs downloading that thing, and so I haven't done it. But yeah, so it depends on if you're really trying to push that, then okay, 12 gigabytes will probably give you a better time. But I think that 8 gigabytes, for the vast majority of what everyone's going to be looking for, will save you quite a bit of money, because it's like a $30, $40 difference. And it's going to be very limited, in terms of when you're going to need that, especially with emulation. So yeah, my advice would be, if you're going to be sticking to 4x3 content, unless like you hear GTA 5 and you perk up from that idea, then maybe get that extra RAM. But for me, it's like, no, thousands and thousands of games that will be enjoyable on those poor, like the tiny little 8 gigs of RAM that you're going to have on that thing.
Oh.
So it'll be fine.
And sorry, how does that compare to the other one that they were looking at, the RG477M?
Yeah, so they had different RAM specs for that one. The 477M, and this is going to be another section in my Nova video, I think, is like full on comparing these two, because the 477M is about the same price point, and I believe they had like 6 and 12 gigabytes of RAM options. I'm not really sure what they still sell. I think they narrowed that down.
Oh,
anyway,
I'm looking right now. It's only 8 gig.
Okay, 8.
And then they had a 12 gig, but it seems to be sold out.
Yeah. So yeah, only 8 gigs. There's more to it than just that, when it comes to these two, LCD versus IPS, a very powerful chip on the RG477M, but Mali drivers. So it's like it really affects things, But, apps like Game Native just last week released a new update that like is supposed to help a lot with Mali drivers. So maybe the gap is going to be closing in a bit, but at the same time, just based on what this person's saying in terms of like placement of start and select and like, having that OLED screen and stuff, I feel like the Nova is probably going to be their better fit. Like,
do you think the 477M would be able to play things like Skyrim a little bit better because of the more processing? No. Okay.
No, I mean, in general, yes, they're making updates to Game Native, but it's like, one is like, wow, it's so surprising that this can play. And then the Mali one is like, oh, why am I doing this to myself right now? Like those are the two experiences you will have, And yes, you can squeeze out something, but I don't know. Like I'm not a particular glutton for punishment, and so I personally usually just stick to Snapdragon devices.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, remind me the Novas that you have, are they 8 or 12?
That's a great question. I have 12 for the one that I've been using for the most part. I think this model I bought an 8. And so I'd have to, I'll just check right now. But like, my hope is that they sent me an 8 on this one. This is the one that I actually specifically put those 2 games on it because I didn't have enough space internally on the other one. And so, 1 second, it's downloading, installing the app. Okay, 8 of 64. This is 12 gigabytes. Dang it. Why do they do that? Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a test bed for that. So even at 12 gigabytes, this is running at full speed. The RAM is not at 100% utilization when playing those games. So it may not be a RAM thing, but just rather the chip itself. Those are pretty hard games to run for the most part. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. But also there is no other difference between those two because the internal storage is still 128 gigs.
Right.
So you're just talking about RAM.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up the game right now in Skyrim, and it is pulling 6 gigs of RAM according to Game Native. So it's not a RAM bottleneck, is what I'm seeing.
Okay. So. Interesting. Yeah. So for the most part, yeah, you can probably skip it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. We got another question over here in the back. Raise your hand a little higher. It's from.
Keep cracking me up when you point like that.
Why?
I don't know. It's just funny. Like,
as if they're like people, do, right?
Yeah, like people with us in the room right now.
Yeah, we're tour
it went
guides,
up to 6.4 gigs of RAM. So that's like absolute max that I'm seeing here. Okay. GPU utilization is at 99%. So it's not a RAM thing.
So you're getting bottlenecked on the processing.
Yeah, GPU. Yeah.
Okay, so SafePoint Sam over here, it's actually from YouTube, a question from YouTube, because I am looking at the YouTube comments, and if there is a question, I'll try to pull it if I remember. I'm wanting to get a handheld, but having a hard time picking one. I've narrowed it down to the new MSI Claw 8EX AI Plus, or the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X20, which is not out yet. I love OLED, but I also want something that will run AAA games uncompromised. The X20 screen and build refinements are great, but the MSI seems more future-proofed. Thoughts? Russ, there's a couple words in there that I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if I would use that quite. That's not how I would think of it. Yeah, like, would you say either the Claw 8EX or the Ally X20 are going to run AAA games uncompromised?
So my definition of uncompromised would be that it fills the resolution of the display, right? And that you can probably get away with lower settings and maybe a little bit of upscaling. So I would say the Claw is a lot closer with its 1200p screen that you can mostly just play every game at 1200p. You know, that's the standard I use with that. The X20, you could maybe play every game at 1080. It really would depend. Yeah.
Yeah, because like when I think on compromise, I think like, oh, not only is it native resolution, it's also like everything on cranked up to ultra.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, no, and neither of them are going to hit that. Like
Right.
for me, like I would call the MSI Claw not just being able to hit that target resolution, but also like at more medium-ish settings too. Like something, like to me, it's more akin to like console, right? Like it's got the right amount of drawbacks, the right amount of resolution kind of thing, and you can play it. And maybe if you want to push it up to a higher tier and then add a little bit of upscaling, sure, maybe you could, you know, depending on the game, whatever. But either way, it is better at AAA games than the Xbox Outlay X20. But like, I mean, not a ton. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like the Panther Lake definitely does beat the Z2 Extreme, but we're not talking like 100% improvements. We're talking about maybe, depending on 45. The game, like like 20-25% kind of thing. So like, yeah, I don't know. That one's a hard one. And then the other one is that he mentioned that the MSI seems more future-proofed. Now, I kind of have an issue with that because I don't know if I would ever call something future-proofed. I kind of hate that terminology. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like current proofed is where we're at right now. You know what I mean? Very, very, very near future proofed, like through the end of the year kind of thing, you know. But you can easily find game like Doom: The Dark Ages still doesn't run great on the MSI Claw, you know. But again, and they specifically also say AAA games, you know. And I'm assuming they're not talking about previous AAA games like Doom Eternal, which runs great, you know. I think they're talking about Doom: The Dark Ages. So yeah, it's neither of these. I mean, if this is their very first handheld PC, then maybe this will be a learning moment. And it's kind of like, it's not the same. This is not a 5090 hooked into a handheld. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're going to be going to the max. It's a delicate dance of balance of settings and resolutions and everything else, and living with 40 frames per second versus, you know, a locked 60, that kind of thing. And they've got the mitigations in there. Both of these are VRR screens, you know, so you've got those options to kind of work around too. So yeah, it really, I think it's an eternal question. This is a very hard one to answer because we don't know the Xbox price yet, the X20. Like, so they haven't even announced that yet. So gosh, if they're the same price, then it's like, I don't know. Then it becomes OLED versus LCD and
and size too. Like, do you want
power?
7.4? Is that what the new one is? Versus 8. You know, like
and so, also 16:9 versus 16:10.
Yeah, which actually, me personally, I kind of appreciate the 16:10 because even if the game can't fill that full resolution, like a lot of times I'll have the overlay, so it just kind of lives at the top up there. So like, you know, I kind of appreciate that. Yeah, and maybe they don't mean to you have the idea like future proofed in terms of performance. Maybe they think of like longevity of how long support's going to be, or you know, is it going to break, you know, that kind of stuff, build quality. Because I mean, I wouldn't call the Steam Deck future proof, but you can still play a lot of games on the Steam Deck and have a great experience. So, you know, I guess it depends on what they think future proofed is. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think one is going to have better support from Asus versus MSI, or one's going to, you know, break somewhere compared to the other?
Yeah. No, I don't know enough about the intricacies of like what kind of support we can expect historically from both of them. I know that they both have their own like share of haters for good reasons, for many reasons, you know, where people have had issues and stuff. I personally haven't experienced those, even when I've had hardware issues and whatnot, even just going straight through Asus, not through like my Asus connections, but actually like going through them. I haven't had issues myself. So yeah, it's hard to say. For me, in general, it really, I'm such a simple guy. It comes down to like power, like whether or not, you know, you prefer power over OLED and LCD, you know, that kind of thing. And for me, like king for a day, I don't have the X20, but I just feel like right now, if I had them sitting in front of me, I would probably play the MSI Claw more. I like the OLED. I liked it, like some of the updates to the X20, but and even, you know, like when we went, you know, like you went to an MSI event the same time that I went to an Xbox event, right? And then we came together and we kind of took, you know, shared notes. And that day I was like, nah, the Xbox just sounds so much better. Like it feels good. I had it in my hands. Like I liked a lot about it. They improved the face buttons. Like there were a lot of things about it that I really liked. And it all kind of changed once I got the MSI Claw in my hands, because I was like, oh, they both made improvements, but I feel like the MSI Claws was a bit more of a leap in the directions that are important to me, like ergonomics and just kind of like the overall feel and stuff. And so, yeah, I again, I need to go back and kind of hold them at the same time, but the MSI Claw for me is kind of my choice, despite the LCD screen, which I think is a fairly decent panel anyway.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I have not had any issues performance wise. Like, the panel, like, there's no washed out colors or weird brightness issues that I've come across. Everything's been great in terms of that. Like, the one thing that's still kind of it's weird. I don't know really how to talk about this. I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but the more I keep playing it, the more I'm still struggling to grip it properly. Like, I don't know. There's something about it that is just not like, I can't wrap my head around it, if that makes sense. Like for me, I'm so used to, maybe it's just what I'm used to or the ergonomics or something, but like the fact that I can't nuzzle, like it doesn't really like fit in the palm. Like I'm more supposed to grip it from the side kind of thing. Like over time, it is slowly becoming less comfortable for me to hold. Like, and yeah, I know we're opposites on this one. Yeah, like I'm still always going to call the Xbox Ally like the most comfortable one. Like I really love the comfort on that one. So it's not even a comparison kind of thing. It's just really weird that over time I'm like, because I find myself as I'm playing like kind of readjusting and like being like, oh, am I just holding it weird or what is it? Like something about it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like,
I think it really goes to show how different people can be, like in terms of hands and expectations and stuff. Like the One X Player 3 for me was a really uncomfortable handheld in the way that I would hold it and stuff. But I fully expected once people, because there was like over 1,000 people who backed that thing. Once people start getting in their hands, I'm expecting to see comments like, gosh, Russ is an idiot. Like this thing feels great, but that's just kind of like the nature of the beast, and I'm not surprised that we have two different MSI Claw experiences, but my brain can't even fathom how it doesn't feel super comfortable to you. Like, I mean, because I just pick it up and I'm like, there it is.
But my brain can't fathom it either, because I'm not saying it's uncomfortable. And if I were to pick the two, I would still pick the Claw day and night. Like, but it is still, it doesn't feel like I can just pick it up and just like, oh, it just feels natural, and I'm just there, and I don't think about it. Wow. Like something about it is still just there, and it's just kind of like it's like a little like itch on the side that I'm just like, oh, I can't quite get. It's not, I'm just not completely comfortable. And it's weird. I really don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it is a bold design, and so I can understand that too. Even one of the MSI representatives, when I talked to him about this right when we were first like announcing it and stuff, and he was like, yeah, it's a little too wide for him. Like he didn't like that it went out at such a drastic angle. He wanted to be a little more squarish, and I was like, no, it's perfect for me. And so even within the company, like they have their own kind of misgivings about some of that stuff too.
I mean, it's human body. Yeah. Everything's different, but yeah. Let's take one more question, which I think is kind of a fun one. You back there. I see you eyeballing me. You've been looking at me. I know you got a question. You're up real high. So it's Sparky9913. My question for you guys: if you had a choice between playing a game on an original device or emulating on newer hardware, would you prefer / choose? And when they put that one in there, I actually did respond to it in Discord, being like, oh man, I know where I fall on it, and I think everyone can kind of tell where I'm going to fall on it. And I think I know where Russ is going to fall on it, but I'm not quite sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think in general, I would just prefer emulation, but in some cases where I'm like, oh no, hardware. So like console games on a CRT, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, if I've got a choice, like I want to play it on there. It's like one of my big regrets in life is that I've only got one CRT and it's right here, which is in the worst possible spot to actually play games. Like I don't have like a chair right there, and it's like tall. So it's like I'm like playing like this if I do want to play, you know what I mean? So that means I got to pull it off, go set it on a table, and all that stuff. And it's a lot. And so
real quick, I'm sorry, Russ. I just realized you have 3 living rooms. You've got that one right there.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
This is the fake living room, but yeah, you're right.
No, actually, that is a bummer though. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
I mean, mine usually sits here, and it continues to sit in my living room because I'm still playing the GameCube and the Dreamcast and like having
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, like it is kind of a to do to like bring it out,
Right.
to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
So like this thing is hooked up to a Mister. It's like just, you know, to me that's almost the same as just original console. And so like that experience is amazing. And in that case, like if I had a choice and everything fell into place, then yes, Genesis, Super Nintendo, all that stuff, I want to play just on the CRT. That's why I often will focus on input delay, CRT shaders and stuff on a handheld, because I'm like, let me get as close as I can without having to haul out the CRT, you know, and we're not there yet, but we're getting close.
But what about handhelds?
Yeah. Like original, we're talking like not even IPS modded, like an old Game Boy DMG, like there's no way in heck I would want to play that over.
Let's break it down, because I mean I think there is a difference between like some handhelds, like even like when I got that GBA in before I did the mod, I was like,
yeah,
oh, that's really cool, but yeah, no, I'm not going to play that. So
Right.
I would say like let's factor in the ability
Sure.
that we can upgrade it and IPS mod it.
So like a PS Vita, like I don't even like emulating PS Vita, because I'm like, why would I even try? Because none of these games play as well, and they're just great on the PS Vita. You know, PSP
Okay.
I think is at the point where emulation's great. 3DS, I'm kind of back and forth. The Thor really changed the paradigm for me in some ways, you know. But previously, especially even the regular DS, I would have said no, just play on those, you know. But nowadays, I'm like, yeah, Thor can kind of do that stuff for me. Yeah, that's probably the extent of it for me. The other thing for me too is even home consoles, like PS1, Sega Saturn, stuff like that, I would rather emulate, because not just the upscaling, which is great, but load times. I don't want to deal with load times. I can just hit fast forward and I'm done, you know. And so that's another thing for me too.
Side note, I was messaging with Steve because I was talking to him about the Dreamcast that I was playing, and he modded it to replace the disk drive to have the storage. I don't remember the exact mod. But I didn't realize how much the noise of the disk drive and it loading
Right.
is just burned into my head. So like I was playing Sonic Adventure, and in between loading, going into that first zone, like I just vividly like had a reaction when it made no sound. I was just like, wait, is this thing broken?
This is
no,
fake.
it's just loading. There's no disk that it's reading from, and it kind of like took the immersion out of it. And like Steve was like, well, I gave you the original disk drive if you want to put it back in. I'm like, no, I'm not saying like that it's better. It's just
Right.
that the noise of that is just ingrained in my memory, and it just is part of the game. Like like I experienced the game that way.
So you need to
which is
get a
kinda
little
funny.
speaker mod, put it in there. It's this tiny little speaker that'll make a disc sound. Yeah.
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think we learned this when we were playing the Symphony of the Night, but I definitely started playing it on the handheld, and then when I got the disc and started playing on the TV, I was like, yeah, this is the way it's meant to be played. Like,
Yeah.
like it's not just that it was a CRT, but it was also just like some games I think are meant for a big screen and an immersive kind of thing. I mean, honestly, there are certain games that even though I have the MSI Claw, like it actually feels better to play on the big screen, like something cinematic like that 007 or the new Halo. I started playing the new Halo, and like there's certain games that I'm like, yeah, this feels like a TV game, you know. Like I like that I can play it in my hand, but it's a TV experience kind of thing.
It's funny. I had the opposite experience with the new Halo. I bought it yesterday because it came out yesterday. You know, bought it, loaded it on my Steam machine, and was very unhappy with the performance, like in terms of like frames per second and the graphics and stuff. I was like, this looks terrible. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm putting this on the MSI Claw. Like I'm going to play it. Like I'm going to compromise the graphics to the point where it's fully playable on a smaller screen. And so I had the opposite experience. I did want to play it on a big TV, but because the Steam machine really chugged, like it's probably one of the worst performing games I've seen. And it may be an optimization thing, week one and all that, you know, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do it on a handheld instead.
That's funny. But yeah, when it comes to handhelds, I'm kind of the opposite of you, where for the most part, I have just been really loving playing on original hardware where I can, right? And I'm lucky that now I do have almost all the devices to play on, and some new ones that I never got to experience, right? But there are certain times where I'm like, actually, you know what? I kind of want to emulate this one. A good example is the PSP. I love that thing to death, and I love Metal Gear. But when I loaded up Peace Walker, I was just like, not having that second stick is real tough.
Right.
So yeah, but like when because I replayed it last year, I think on my what was it? It wasn't the Thor. I guess it must have been my Retroid Pocket 5. So, and then I did the guide to map the right stick to the face buttons kind of thing. And man, did that really change the game in a good way. Like, not that it's unplayable, but it really does. It makes it really hard to go back to the original way. So, like, in that case, as much as I love the PSP and playing on original hardware, that one, like, makes up for a big shortcoming of the system. And so, yeah, but for the most part, yeah, I want to play on original hardware with IPS mods, of course.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other examples where I'm like, I kind of just want to play that one emulated. Because even with like that Metal Gear one, I know there are patches to have it run above 20 frames per second. But I actually didn't even like that. Like I applied it and then I was like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. So even when I was emulating it, I wasn't doing an integer scaled because I liked the chunky pixels. I wasn't doing the mod to uncap the frame rate.
That's interesting.
I just took advantage of the fact that it had a second thumbstick.
Yeah, I mean that's all fair, and that's kind of the beauty of the emulation part, right? Is that you can have a choice between all that stuff as opposed to just kind of what you're stuck with, which is its own kind of like argument for it too, where it's like, no, play the game as it was developed and intended for, you know. And so yeah, I see both of those, but there's definitely like there's some systems like Game Boy DMG, much rather play that on something that can actually emulate and upscale and shaders and all that stuff.
Actually, I did think of another example. Like you mentioned DS games with the AOI and Thor. I mean, it's one thing to have the stylus, right? I think you found one that you generally like.
Decent.
But would you play any of the portrait games on the AOI and Thor?
Yeah. So that's where the DS comes back. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to play Brain Age or something, you know, like I'm going to use the stylus. I'm going to have that full experience, the rotated experience. And so I'm kind of torn about that. You know, I've had videos where it's like every system and what is my ideal device for them. And I try to do one like almost every year, and I haven't done one this year yet, you know. And I think the conversation is going to be shifted a bit, you know, with how the Thor works versus original hardware and everything else. And so, yeah, I kind of need to make a new one. Yeah, and the Nova too. Oh my gosh, it's going to decimate that whole list. You know, it's just be like a Nova video at that point.
Well, it's a Nova review video. Just be like, yeah, this is perfect for every system.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's I mean, once again, we're lucky that we have access to all this kind of stuff. Like, I think it would be harder if it was like, oh man, you know, the original hardware is just so expensive and it's just so annoying. To have to recollect those things. Or I've been poking around on Facebook Marketplace a lot, and I've been seeing some newer devices, but then like I've been seeing a bunch of DSs that have like cracked hinges or screens that are all like burnt, like they almost look like the surface is kind of burnt and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I could pick this up for $50, but there's a lot of work that you would still need to do to get that thing operational. Or if you get something that has been cleaned up and, you know, by somebody who has cared about it, you're talking about hundreds of dollars, you know, which is above what the price was at the time. So that it's weird. But I think we should probably wrap up this expedition right now, Russ.
Yeah, I think we've been on a good long walk. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, this guy over here was taking a golf cart, and I think he just ran out of gas, and so we need to stop. Need to find a gas station and top it off.
Nice.
So yeah. Tune in next week, or join us next week for the next expedition. Please queue up, you know, and make an orderly line for the people following us to the next leg of the journey, and the people who were just on it, you know, rest up, get a nice massage, pay for a nice masseuse over here. There's some locals that have
get
some
those
really
calves
good
worked
places. Yeah, rest up, drink up. Once again, if you're in the area next week, August 8th, come say hi at the Bay Area Electronics Flea Market. Until then, you've got your newsletter, which continues to be fantastic.
Thank you.
RetroGameCore.com. Right? Or is it?
Yep. News.retrogamecore.com. You got it. Yep.
I'm going to be patiently waiting for your full Nova review.
Coming out this weekend. Yeah.
And hopefully I'll get one soon as well to try out. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks, Russ. And we will see you on the next leg of our journey.
Yeah. Bye everyone.